Alright, welcome back. Today we're going to read the facts that the Continental Congress provided to prove that King George III was doing and how he was not doing what a government should. So let's start. And actually, first I want your assignment is going to be kind of light today, but it's more about thinking. I want you to think about how these things may or may not apply today. And in the assignment, I just want you to write a reflection on one or two of these that stick out to you. You can do more if you want. But just tell me which ones stick out and how they may or may not apply today. And you could even turn it around and say our government's really good at this, if you want. Essentially, I just want you to apply these concepts to your present-day environment. Okay, so he has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. So that just means he's not letting the Congress pass laws. Because you need laws to regulate a society, to keep things secure. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended he has utterly neglected to attend to them. So essentially, this king does not recognize the authority of the colonies. They try to pass say we had this COVID-19 thing during the reign of King George III, and say it was even more deadly than it is. Say 1 in 10 people die unless they're quarantined, and it would be like King George saying, "No, you can't order people to quarantine." Okay. Even though it's immediate and pressing importance, still no, he doesn't attend to them. So he's just kind of neglecting the colonies. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. So essentially, this guy wants all power. He's not letting large districts of people be represented, and he'll only pass laws if they'll relinquish their right to representation, which is, it's bizarre, really. This guy sounds kind of crazy, and if you read about him, he actually was crazy. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. So there's the Atlantic Ocean in between the colonies and Great Britain. So yeah, if he says, yep, in 1 week's time we're gonna hold a convention, and I'm sorry colonies, you can't be there, but we'll be thinking of you. Like, that's kind of dumb. Unless you're a tyrant, then it's planned. So he has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. Interesting. Yeah, so he doesn't like opposition at all. He doesn't like to be corrected at all. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions, or dissolving, or getting rid of, to cause others to be elected. So they can't replace the people that have been dissolved or removed, whereby the legislative powers, or the powers of making laws, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise. So essentially, going back to that concept of can the government derives its power from the consent of the governed, they bring that principle back here. You can't just get rid of a power because you decide you don't like someone in the legislature. No, it goes back to the people, not the king, which he thought, oh, I have all power. the state remaining, in the meantime, exposed to all dangers of invasions from without and convulsions within. So, without the legislature and without regulation, society does crumble. It's a fact. That's how it works. We need laws so that we agree with each other and some power to enforce them. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose, obstructing laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. So people trying to immigrate to the 13 colonies are seeing difficulties there that really shouldn't be there. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to law. So judges can't judge. He's obstructed justice. We've heard that quite a bit in our society. Obstruction of justice. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. It really should be the people that does that, especially if that judge is going to judge that people. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. So at this time, the people were essentially forced to quarter soldiers. They were like forced to be a hotel for the soldiers or a bed and breakfast. They had no really choice in the matter. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. So, why is your army here? We don't need it unless it's to control us. It's just kind of an unreasonable threat, which consequently caused unrest. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. So essentially, those soldiers could do whatever they want there and not face any sort of court. He has combined with others to subject us to jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. So, same thing. The soldiers can do whatever they want, and they tell others what to do, and they're not voted in, they don't have that power, but they, again, usurp that power. There's quartering large bodies of troops, protecting them from punishment, which murder, so they can kill someone and not face consequences. Cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, so they can't make a living because they can't trade with the world. Imposing taxes without our consent, that's pretty much self-explanatory. Depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. Jury is your peers judging you, right? Transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. So they just take people, like a guy defends his wife in a bar fight. Oh, you hit my soldier, so we're gonna haul you off for this pretended offense, really, when really it's just harassment and oppression. Abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. So essentially, the king was coming in and saying, your government exists no more, and I'm going to set up my own. So, good luck with that. Again, another example of usurping, and it's just not with the consent of the people, right? For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government. Kind of the same thing. Just getting rid of their government. He doesn't care what they have to say. No consent of the people. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. So, essentially, the king was saying, I'll make your laws, and you can't make your own laws. So you don't need a legislature at all. And yet he abdicates the government, meaning he just neglects it. Okay? Oh, and if they get out of line, he wages war against them. So it's just it is insanity. Like, does he care about these colonies or not? He is extremely neglectful and threatening to these people. On the land and on the sea. Yeah, they used to be very, very proud of their huge navy that's the most powerful in the world, right? He's abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war. Oh, I already read that. Plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. Yeah, that's a pretty bold accusation, but it happened. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries. Yeah, he used German mercenaries, for sure, to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. Wow. So they basically said, like, you should resign, O king, because you're not worthy to be the king because of all these things. And let me just point out just how well this paragraph rolls off the tongue. I mean, setting aside the abhorrent nature of what they're talking about, like, it's so well written, you know? It's just amazing. He has constrained our fellow citizens, or forced them, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country. So that's called pressed into service, where they would be, on a trading ship, and then they get commandeered and said, yep, you're now a member of the Royal Navy, and we're going to go get up against your family. So that's awkward. Yeah, he has excited domestic insurrection among us and endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. So, essentially, the king is saying, hey, you Native Americans, why don't you come help us take care of the colonists? You can kill men, women, and children. Do what you like. That's what it means by all ages and conditions. So young, old, male, female. It's just horrible. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress. So we've asked for help, O king. In the most humble terms, our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. We've asked for help, but you just keep hurting us, right? A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be ruler of a free people. Again, are they a free people? Right? Unworthy a head of a civilized nation. Unfit to be ruler of a free people. So that's 2 times they've said you shouldn't be even the leader of Great Britain. Nor have we been wanting in our attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. Okay, sanguinity. That's like brotherhood. Sangre is blood. It's like. Anyway, essentially, they're saying the Parliament has ignored us as well. We've tried to reach out to the king. We've tried to reach out to Parliament. Both of our British brethren have ignored us. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. So, again, they're restating, yeah, because you're ignoring us, we're going to be our own government. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, so they're relying on God, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So the colonies are kind of like separate countries, but they have decided they're like, they're united. They're like a confederation, if that makes sense. You'll have to look it up if you don't understand it. But essentially, this is the end. This is the declaration, essentially saying, yeah, because of all these things that have happened, we're separate. They come out and just say, yeah, we're a separate country now. So I hope this helped you understand the Declaration of Independence. Remember to write your reflection on one or two of these things. You can, if you want to look at this again, just Google Declaration of Independence. You should be able to find it pretty easily. If you have questions, feel free to email me. Otherwise, thanks for watching.